ShotokuTech, Saturday Story Time. These are the stories that you might have missed while you were caught up in other stories. All right, welcome back to ShotokuTech Saturday Story Time, 18 July 2020 edition. Make sure to look for the link down below in the description to this Blogspot article containing links to all of these stories. Some of them have videos or other supporting information in those articles that you might want to follow up on. Kyoto University has a new telescope to study solar flares. This is a 3.8 meter Seimei telescope, and it's being used by the astronomers from Kyoto University's Graduate School of Science and also the National Astronomical Observatory of Japan. And they've detected 12 stellar flare phenomenon from AD Laudanis, a red dwarf 16 light years away. One of these flares was 20 times larger than those emitted by our own sun. These are sudden explosions that occur from the surface of stars, including our own sun. In rare occasions, a really large super flare results in massive magnetic storms that can significantly affect technology on the Earth. Understanding the properties of super flares can be vital, and their rareness means the data from our sun is difficult to gather. But M-type red dwarf stars have a temperature lower than our sun and resulting in a higher incidence of flares. They were astounded to detect a superflare on the very first night of observations. Light from excited hydrogen atoms of the superflare exhibited an amount of high-energy electrons, roughly 1 order of magnitude greater than the typical flares from our sun. We may even be able to begin to understand how these emissions can affect the existence or emergence of life on other planets. Okay, so this massive extinct dolphin, I don't think they called him Flipper because he looks like an apex predator with whale-like features. They've discovered this 15-foot skeleton in South Carolina, and it lived approximately 25 million years ago. Judging by its skull, teeth, and size, it was the top predator of its time. They first found fragments of this animal in the late 1800s, but they have a new, nearly complete find from the 1990s, and they've been piecing it together. It's very similar to modern whales, implying similar aquatic behaviors and adaptations. The skeleton also indicates that this dolphin that they call Ankylorisa may have been the first echolocating whale to become an apex predator, paving the way for killer sperm whales and orcas. The whales and dolphins have a long, complicated evolutionary history where they have certain features that seem to overlap back and forth. Astronomers have discovered strange objects and they have no idea what it is. It may be a new type of cosmic object. These are only visible in radio wavelengths. They can't be attributed to other known objects. So they first spotted these orcs, or odd radio circles, and heaps of data that were collected by the Australian Square Kilometre Array Pathfinder's Evolutionary Map of the Universe project. They can only be spotted with radio telescopes. They're invisible to X-ray, optical, and infrared telescopes, and they don't seem to correspond to any known type of object. Circular features such as this are well known in radio astronomy, but they usually represent something that's already observable. A supernova remnant, a planetary nebula, and so on. But they're going to have to continue observing these to really come to a conclusion to what they might be. So astronomers have discovered this gigantic structure that they're calling the South Pole Wall. It's 1.4 billion light years across. Basically, it's hidden behind the Milky Way galaxy, and if you're looking at the southernmost part of our sky, you can't see it because it's behind this area of obscuration. Let's get to that. Yeah, there's the zone of galactic obscuration, and it's where there's this chameleon cloud complex that has a large number of stars forming in it. And then, so somewhere behind that, there's this huge bubble of material that they've discovered by analyzing the redshift versus the movement of galaxies. And using this 3D observation, they've plotted out this entirely vast South Pole wall. So I'm going to call bullshit on this one. This article is basically saying we haven't found aliens because they've all gone digital and they're hibernating until the universe gets cooler, so processing will be more efficient. I'll let you read it. I just pointed it out because I thought it was interesting. I personally think the smarter you are, the less you're going to be hooked into a computer. So good luck with that one. So the whole COVID-19 crisis has led to an increase in broken heart syndrome, and yes, this is a real thing. So they've been observing this population of patients in Ohio hospitals over this prolonged period of time, and they're used to seeing 5 to 12 cases in an 8-week period of broken heart syndrome. But it's recently rose to 20 per this 8-week period. Now, these patients are all COVID negative, and typically this occurs in women above 70 years of age, and 30% of those with the syndrome were men in their early 60s. This broken heart disease could be characterized as a stress-induced disease of the heart muscles, and it's called cardiomyopathy. And it may have symptoms like shortness of breath and chest pains. The illness feels like a heart attack. It can be treated and it can be reversed in about 2 months. It's associated with severe emotional distress. So they're observing an increase of these cases during the period of the COVID lockdown. So scientists in Singapore and the UK have developed a technology that's similar to noise-canceling headphones, where a microphone captures real noise coming in and speakers emit sound waves to counter it. Well, they're developing this technology for Windows so that you can open your windows to cool your home using less energy. So this Emirates Mars launch has been delayed. It's lifting off from Japan. It was supposed to take off on Thursday, but the weather in Japan's just been really abysmal, encroaching thunderstorms every time they're ready to launch. But the interesting thing is, this is this period of time where many Mars missions are poised to take off. So while we're waiting for this particular Emirati orbiting satellite named Hope to take off, you also have the Chinese Mars mission planned to take off on July 23rd, and NASA's Mars Perseverance rover is slated to take off no earlier than July 30th. This cluster of Mars missions launching in 2020 is because of the required timing, because Mars and Earth only come into close proximity every 2 years. If the launch window's missed, the mission would be postponed for at least that length of time. This is one where you're going to want to follow the link in the description down below to the article, because they actually have a video of this humanoid clerk robot in Siberia that can process basic government documents for people. Essentially, the robot can reproduce 600 human facial expressions with its eyes, eyebrows, and lips, and other mechanical muscles covered with artificial skin. It can ask and answer generic questions. It's connected to a scanner and printer, and it also has access to a document database and fully replaces a registry office employee. So make sure to check that out. Researchers have been studying these Andean Condors, and they soar for up to 100 miles without flapping their wings. They weigh up to 33 pounds and have a wingspan of 10 feet. So you can imagine it's a lot of work to take off. So they really want to conserve energy as they patiently search for their food on the ground. They glide from one air current to another. They spend nearly all of their flying time in this soaring mode, flapping their wings a mere 1.3% of the time. They attached flight recorders to these Andean Condors from 2013 to 2018. They have over 250 hours worth of data. One condor spent 5 hours in the air without a single flap, covering 106 miles. 75% of flapping occurs during takeoff. So that's a real physical cost on these birds. So pharmaceutical companies are considering using gum as a delivery mechanism for medications. So Britain's University of Bristol has developed a humanoid chewing robot that has a life-size set of mechanical jaws, and it also has a simulated secretion of saliva. So this could be used to assess the release rate of medicated gums in a standardized, controlled fashion. The chewing robot gives pharmaceutical companies the opportunity to investigate medicated chewing gum with reduced patient exposure and lower costs to using this method. So a couple of weeks ago we talked about this Ethiopian dam, and Egypt and Sudan have not been able to come to agreement with Ethiopia on the terms of them filling this dam, and it seems now that Ethiopia has begun filling the reservoir behind the dam. The filling of the dam does not need to wait until the completion of the dam, says the Ethiopian water minister. We've seen the water level rise from 525 meters to 560 meters. They're attributing it to heavy rainfall and runoff. But Egypt has 100 million people, and they get 90% of their fresh water from the Nile. Egypt is asking for a clarification on whether it had started filling the reservoir or not. It's evident from the flow meters in the Andean border station with Ethiopia that there's a retreat in the water levels equivalent to 90 million cubic meters per day, confirming the closure of the gates of the Renaissance Dam. This is from Sudan's Ministry of Irrigation and Water Resources. So this is going to be a story to keep an eye on. So thanks again for watching ShotokuTech Saturday Story Time. Look for the link down below to this Blogspot article with all of the links. And have a great week. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching ShotokuTech. Please subscribe, comment, like, and share.